As the German army stormed through France in June 1940, the islanders here on Jersey had the agonising decision of whether to stay or to go and leave their homes and possessions and flee to England.
Fearful of the impending invasion, 23,000 islanders, 1/3 of the population, registered in St Helier for evacuation, but only a handful of boats were available to take them to the mainland. So, most of the population on Jersey and Guernsey decided to stay and wait it out.
Hitler considered the Channel Islands a valuable landing stage for the invasion of mainland France, and by May 1940 it became increasingly clear that the islands lay directly in the path of the advancing German forces. Winston Churchill, however, thought they held no strategic importance for Britain and decided to demilitarize them and leave them undefended. As a result, after the Channel Islands were deemed indefensible by Winston Churchill, their occupation by Germans became an inevitability.
A fifth of all the defence works in the so-called Atlantic Wall, a defence line stretching from the Baltic to the Spanish frontier, were built on the Channel Islands. Moreover, Alderney was the most fortified of these isles.
Hitler became obsessed with the idea that Britain would try to recapture the island, and so issued a personal directive that the island should be turned into an impregnable fortress.
Sybil Hathaway, the Dame of Sark, received German officers on the 2nd of July. They assured her she had nothing to fear, and that the island's garrison of just 10 men arrived on the 4th of July. Alderney, meanwhile, was almost completely empty, but was garrisoned by a company of troops. Herm, the smallest of the islands, was visited by German soldiers on the 25th of July, although they did not set up a permanent station there.
The following day, a detachment of troops arrived on Guernsey, and that afternoon the German flag was raised. More arrived later, and their attention soon turned to the other islands. Jersey surrendered on the 1st of July, and soldiers were swiftly stationed. Islanders had to show their compliance by flying white flags over their houses.
On the 28th of June, the Luftwaffe bombed Jersey and Guernsey, unaware that the islands were undefended. They killed 44 people. 2 days later, the Luftwaffe personnel took control of Guernsey airfield. There they met the chief of police, who informed them that the islands were undefended. The Germans were shocked upon discovering this fact.
31 Martello towers in total were built in the 19th century, of which 24 remain. 3 fell victim to coastal erosion, and 3 were destroyed in German occupation, and 1 has just disappeared.
As well as building many new fortifications, the German forces made their own additions to some of the existing fortifications, and made use of all the tactical sites which in times past have played their part in the story of the island. These additions include gun emplacements and various types of bunkers which can be found dotted all around the island.
However, during the 5 years tenure, the Germans transformed St Albans into a virtually impregnable castle. The Germans moved in and improved the existing defences, upgrading the fort using concrete, barbed wire, mines, telephones, electric plants, and various other modern appliances which were necessary for warfare during the Second World War. Organisation taught organisation was a civil and military engineering group in Germany, named after its founder, Fritz Todt, an engineer and senior Nazi figure. The organisation was responsible for a huge range of engineering projects, both in pre-World War Germany and in Germany itself, and occupied territories from France and the Soviet Union. forced labour. Built the fortifications using imported labour, primarily prisoners of war and workers forces from occupied countries.
During World War II, Nazi Germany constructed a considerable number of fortifications in the Channel Islands, which formed part of the Atlantic Wall. In Jersey, the fortifications include St. Albans and artillery batteries such as Battery Moult and Battery Lothering. Another existing emplacement was used by the Nazis as well. St. Albans Fort provided protection to the broad sweep of St. Albans Bay and to the harbours at St. Alban and later St. Helier. The fort was built in the 1540s to protect the harbour at St. Alban, which was the safest harbour in the island at the time. It was used extensively by boy merchants, who then built their fine houses nearby.
During German occupation of Jersey, the Germans recognised the strategic importance of the coastal towers, and they used and adapted the towers for their own defence. In one case, this involved demolishing the existing tower at Belle Royale and to make way for a new concrete bunker. Why? A curfew was imposed between the hours of 11 PM and 5 AM, and ID cards had to be carried. The sale of spirits was also banned. Later, wirelesses were banned and all British-born islanders were deported to Germany. Movement was also very restricted around the island. A declaration of unconditional surrender was signed the following day. However, after negotiation with the Home Office, the Germans allowed the Red Cross SS Vega to deliver food, saving many of the islanders' lives. The Vega continued to bring food parcels even after the British liberated the islands on the 9th of May 1945. Jesus.
Alright. Are you filming?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't even pan.
Hello.
You
Did.
were just too busy looking at the plane.
Yeah, you're like. Whilst there was no consolidated resistance movement as there was in France, V for Victory signs were painted around the island, underground defences were fitted, and guns and ammunition were stolen from German stores. Some islanders assisted their Jewish neighbours and fed slave labourers. On Jersey, letters sent to the commandant were informants. What? Dave, you gotta like take it above the camera before I can read it. You're just hiding half of it behind the camera.
Why don't we just lift this up?
Oh, for
You got something.
Dave! Jesus! Whilst there was no consolidated resistance movement as there was in France, V for Victory signs were painted around the island, underground newsletters were written, and guns and ammunition were stolen from German stores. Some islanders assisted their Jewish neighbours and fed slave labourers. On Jersey, letters sent to the commandant by informants were intercepted by the post office and destroyed. The RAF dropped information leaflets, but possession of these also became a criminal offence. Many who did collaborate were attacked after liberation.
The D-Day landings in June 1944 came as both a blessing and a curse. Whilst they marked the beginning of the end for the German occupiers who relied on supply lines The D-Day landings in June 1944 came both as a blessing and a curse. The D-Day landings in June 1944 came as both a blessing and a curse. While they marked the beginning of the end of the German occupiers who relied on supply lines from the continent, they also meant that by August, St. Malo had surrendered and the island's supply routes were cut off. For the next 8 months, the local population and the 28,000 strong German garrison went close to starvation. Liberation finally came when an Allied task force headed by HMS Bulldog arrived off St. Peter Port, Guernsey on 8th of May 1945.